put a hedge around him because you are blessing him. And if it weren't for all these blessings, in other words, Job's just in it for the money, and he's just in it for the benefits. And if you didn't have all those benefits, then he'd curse you to your face. And so they enter into this little, it's almost like a wager kind of. Now some people, because of this very peculiar introduction to the book of Job, some people think that it may be a parable, that it may not be a literal thing. But I don't know. That's because of this very peculiar situation. But I don't know. Either way you want to take it, the point is, what is the message of Job? And I think, just my opinion, I think Job is one of the most misapplied books in the Bible. And what many people will do is they'll read the book of Job and they'll read that little story I just told you about Satan and God, and they enter into this wager, and God says, okay, well, go ahead and take away his property, and so his wealth, and so Satan goes and attacks him, and he attacks his children. His children are all killed, and takes everything away, and he attacks his body, and he has all these boils and sores. And Job, see, this is what's interesting. Job does not understand what's happening. Job is not able to read chapter 1 in the account here. Job doesn't know it's Satan that's doing it. And so Job is sitting there thinking, all he knows is everything's gone bad. And so Job has sort of the attitude of, why is God doing this to me? Now, many people, and in my opinion, misapply the book of Job, and they'll read it and they'll say, well, that's what's going on. God and Satan are having a wager, and they're testing me, and God's using Satan to, Listen, I got to tell you something. Whatever's going on in the book of Job is not going on today. I'm here to tell you that Satan is not walking into the presence of God and having conversations with him. How do you know that's true? Well, here's what Jesus said. Anton, can you, by the way, I was going to quote from Job. Give me quickly Luke's Gospel, chapter 10, verse 18. Can you do that? Luke 10:18. And we'll come back to Job just in a second. Luke 10:18. Listen to this. Jesus said, he said to them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. Now, what does that imply to you? That implies to me he's not up there anymore. Now, Jesus didn't explain exactly what he's referring to. Here's another place. This might be what he's thinking of. Something that he foresaw it, and it's literally happening here. John 12:31. How about that, Anton? Could you give me that? John 12:31. Jesus in John 12 is getting ready to go to the cross, and he says, referring to his very soon going to the cross to pay for our sins, he says, now is the judgment of this world. Now shall the prince of this world be cast out. And by the prince of this world, he means Satan. Now, it may be that those two things are talking about the same event. I happen to think that's probably what it is. I think he's speaking in a kind of foreseeing kind of a way when he said, I saw Satan fall from light. But in any event, Satan's not there anymore. Jesus said he fell as lightning from heaven. He's not walking up into the presence of God saying, let's look at Anton's life today, and we'll have a little wager. And no, that isn't going on today. Satan doesn't have access to God's ear, and I'll bet God's happy about that. He's cast down to the earth, and here's where we deal with him. And I'll tell you whose ear he does have access to. It's yours and mine. When we're told to resist the devil and so forth in the New Testament, one of the things that we're told is to cast down imaginations and reasonings and high things that exalt themselves against the knowledge of God. Those things, we are the ones dealing with Satan down here. And that must be a humiliating thing for him. He used to go into the presence of God. He can't go to the presence of God anymore. So, whatever was happening in the book of Job, this is my point. Whatever is happening in the book of Job is not the case today. Something has changed between now and then. And what has changed is the coming of Jesus. Jesus altered the equation. Jesus altered the situation. Nevertheless, when the events of the book of Job are happening, Job himself, all he knows is things are going bad. Everything's gone wrong. And he doesn't know why it's happened. Here in chapter 9, he's complaining about it. These are called his complaints. Or he's just, that's not really fair. That's what it's generally called. Job's complaints and the answer of his friends. Well, Job is just trying to make sense out of all this. And his friends are telling him, generally, the essence of, if you read this book, It goes on and on and on. Job and his friends going back and forth arguing. And generally the message of the friends is, Job, you must have really done something bad to make God so mad at you, for God to do this to you. They think God's doing it. Job thinks God's doing it. Nobody seems to understand that it wasn't God doing it, it's Satan doing it. And Job's blaming it all on God. And he's frustrated. He doesn't understand what's wrong. The friends say you did something wrong. Job said, no, as far as I know, I didn't do anything wrong. And so he says in chapter 9, verse 1, then Job answered and said, referring to what one of the friends said in the previous chapter, I know it is so of a truth, but how should a man be just with God? If he will contend with him, he cannot answer him 1 of 1,000. Now that's a little bit hard to understand. What he's basically saying is, how could I ever hope to be right with God? If I get called into court, let's say, called to account, I can't answer God. I can't defend myself against God. The Amplified makes it a lot more easy to understand. Could you give me chapter 9, verse 1 of the Amplified? I think this makes it a lot easier to see what he's saying. If one should want to contend with him, he cannot answer him. Oh, not Amplified. I meant to say Message. Give me the Message. I think it makes it more plain. If we wanted to bring our case before him, what chance would we have? Not 1 in 1,000. Let's go back to verse 1. Let's get the context here. Job continued by saying, so what's new? I know all this. The question is, how can mere mortals get right with God? Good question, isn't it? What can I hope to do, in other words, to be right in his sight? And then the next verse says this. If we wanted to bring our case before him, what chance would we have? Not 1 in 1,000. In other words, he's saying, God is this awesome, mighty, unapproachable deity, and I'm just a poor old human being, and I don't know why things are happening, and I can't go and defend myself against a God like that. It's very interesting. This is an interesting chapter. I think one of the most interesting in the whole book. But let's skip down a little bit. And Anton, I'm going to go back to King James, where he gets to the essence of what I want to talk about today. Verse 32 says this. He says, Job says, for he is not a man, meaning God. He is not a man as I am, that I should answer him, and that we should come together in judgment. In other words, he says, we're not equals. I can't take him into court and say, why are you doing this to me? Like if it was his neighbor, and his neighbor put up a fence and claimed some of his property, they could go into court. Because I'm a man, he's a man, and we have a dispute, and we could go into court and settle it. He's saying, God's not a man. I can't haul him into court and say, why are you treating me this way? What did I do to deserve this? Verse 33, he says, neither is there any daysman betwixt us, that he might lay his hand upon us both. That's a little bit peculiar expression there, daysman. What it literally means is a mediator. Neither is there any mediator that he might... Listen to this expression. Neither is there any mediator between us, that he may lay his hand upon us both. He's saying, first of all, God and I are not in the same league. I can't approach him. He's awesome and mighty, and he's the deity, he's the judge. I can't haul him into court and saying, why are you treating me like this? It's unfair, what's happening? Of course, again, let me just remind you, Job is blaming God for something that's not really God's fault. Now, we might discuss the whole situation. Sometimes when people approach the book of Job for the first time, they're just taken aback by this deal of God and the devil making this wager about Job. However you want to interpret that, it wasn't really God to blame. God is not just vindictively being mean to Job here. That's what Job seems to think. But he's saying, I can't approach him, I can't bring a complaint against him, I can't haul him into court. And he says, and there's nobody that can mediate. He's saying, if there were only a person, and this is how he describes a mediator, who could lay his hand upon us both. Now that's a beautiful expression, because that is a perfect picture of what Jesus came to do. Jesus came into the world as a man, but also as God manifest in the flesh, we're told. So he's God manifest in the flesh, but he's also in the flesh, he's a man. So he's a man, so he can put one hand on you and me. And not only that, not just in the sense that he is a man, it says he was tempted in all points like as we are. He knows what it's like to be a human being. We're even told that if you stop and ponder what this is saying in Romans chapter 8, Paul says that Jesus came in the likeness of sinful flesh. Now, I'm not saying Jesus ever sinned, and of course he never did. But when Paul said he came in the likeness